Karen Holton TV presents the Quantum Guide Show, featuring ordinary people sharing their extraordinary gifts within our social reality.
Karen, Tyler, welcome. How y'all doing?
Good. Nice to see you,
Hey,
Chris.
good, Chris. Nice to meet you, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you both for coming on. I'm really looking forward to this. Today, we're going to further explore Karen's experiences, which have been documented in your book, Transdimensional Meet the New Neighbors. But we also have Tyler here to add his insights about Karen's experiences as it may relate to quantum physics and a little bit of a scientific perspective. I'm really looking forward to this. I love getting as many different perspectives on the phenomena as possible. I think people's personal experiences are one of the best ways we can understand this. So, really looking forward to this. Before we get into it, why don't each of you tell us a little bit about yourselves and where the audience can find your work? We'll start with Karen.
Well, I'm a proud member of the Forbidden Knowledge Network, so you can find me on all audio podcasts under Quantum Guide Show with Karen Holton. I'm also available on most platforms at Karen Holton TV. I have a website, www. KarenHoltonHealthCoach.com. My books are available on Amazon. I have two podcasts a week, The Quantum Guide Show with Karen Holton, and on Sundays, Aliens and Angels podcast, also featuring myself.
Excellent. And Tyler.
Hey, thanks. Yeah, you can find me at I just have the Lost Channel, CE5 Meditation, Eco Retreat, and Research Center. That's on Facebook. That's where I talk to people in the public. There, we're doing the articulation, exploration, and implementation of CE5 science, new contacts and protocols. We're trying to put it all together, trying to understand really what's going on. We're talking about quantum awareness and disclosure. We've all kind of been, I don't want to use the word psyop, but we've all been kind of focused on a Newtonian perspective of reality this whole time, and it doesn't really cover what's going on with the UAP and the Sasquatch stuff anymore. And people are having experiences that don't really make sense from a Newtonian perspective. And there's in Canada, there isn't really anywhere that anyone can go and talk to somebody about these experiences, even though they're having them more and more often, it seems. So I'm trying to make sense for people that are having these experiences. We're gathering tangible proof of the interfrequential nature of our reality, all the freaky things that fit into there, Sasquatch, UAPs. We're doing that with CE5 science. We're interviewing, profiling contactees of interfrequential beings, as well as witness support from a non-Newtonian perspective. And eventually I'm trying to provide some intelligence to our police officers who are also the whole system of justice is based on Newtonian science, and there isn't really room for it. There's lots of reasons for that, but that's where we're at in our society now, so I'm trying to help where we can.
Right on. Well, Tyler, since this is your first time on, I'd just like to hear a little bit more about your journey and what brought you to do the work that you're doing now.
Oh man, how much time do you have? I'll try again. I'll try and summarize it
Synopsis.
so far. So I left. I was a police officer in Ontario for 13 years. I left with PTSD and moving on to different things. I had believed I'd seen a UFO previously, but there is no information really available. And I was not a YouTube guy. I was not up to date on any of the stuff going on. So I looked in. I just Googled, has there been a new UFO sighting? And that story has moved way past the point that I believed it had. I thought, oh, maybe there'd be one or two more credible sightings. I had no idea about any of this stuff. It was so far ahead of what I thought was possible. So I found out about that C5, the Disclosure Project, Dr. Stephen Greer. I just happened to be meditating at the time. I didn't even realize meditation was a real thing when I started this only like 2 years ago. But quickly learned that it was, and the wild benefits and how far that science has gone. So got into C5, didn't believe it at first, thought I'd try it, and then literally the first time I did it, I saw something in meditation, asked nicely to come and check us out, like the protocols and from Dr. Stephen Greer there. Had an orb. Couple of days, I had the freaking orb fly over, just right over my porch, and I had this like telepathic, not a no, not a voice, but like a knowing. Look up, and then sure enough, there's this freaking ball flying over my house, and then I saw the same thing in a plane. Thought I was going freaking nuts at first. So I went and did some C5s with some local groups here in Toronto. Uh, balls of light and stuff were showing up. Didn't know anything about this, so I've really gone into how all of this is possible, and what it really means for us. And it's a lot wilder than I thought it was going to be, and it's going to take some grassroots education here to get the general public up to even just a basic comprehension of what's actually going on here and what reality actually looks like. Because I was in law enforcement for 13 years under a pretense of what reality was, and it's not what I thought it was at all.
Right on. That's a great introduction. Thank you for that. I agree. There seems to be never-ending layers to peel through, layers of understanding. Once we get through one, there's infinite more, and we're just back to square one. I always say the more I learn about this phenomena, the more questions I have. So it's definitely
Yeah.
something that it's one of my favorite topics to explore. So
Yes, and
Karen, go ahead.
now I'm talking to people like you to learn everything I can.
Right on. So, Karen, where should we start as it relates to your experiences?
Okay, so I had my transdimensional experiences. Well, not the angelic one, that was in the mid 1990s, but I had my ET contact around 2014. So I was, people talk about, oh, I was on a spaceship and I met beings from here and there and we did this and that and zippity doo. Wow, that was not my experience. For my experience, it was an absolute mind fuck, pardon the language. It was I couldn't make sense of it. I couldn't understand how it could be possible, and yet here I am, and it was absolutely possible. It took me years to really unwrap it. And then in 2017, I had a vision that said, Karen, you got to get this book out. This is important. And I did not have any self confidence. I didn't even have podcasts yet. I didn't know how to do any of this, and it was caused a lot of anxiety, but I felt like it was really important that I do it. So eventually last December I published the book. Now the word transdimensional actually came to me while I was having a transdimensional experience. I didn't know what to call the book, and it came loud and clear. You need to call it transdimensional, because to my limited understanding, that was the closest I could get to accurately describing my experience. So the next day I went online and I looked up transdimensional. I didn't even know what the word meant. And I went, oh my God, that's exactly what I do. I'm able to somehow traverse different timelines, dimensional realities. I can go there and I can come back. And I thought, well, I'm not anybody special. So if this is possible for me, this has to be possible for other people. So finally, I knew I had to get my book out at the end of 2024, and I did. For those of you who haven't bought it yet, it's available on Amazon worldwide. And so I put the book out, but I still, even I admit in the book, I wasn't 100% sure on how this was happening. So then fast forward into the new year, and I can't remember whether I contacted Tyler or he contacted me, and he said, well, I can explain how you're able to have these experiences. So, we texted back and forth a bit, and eventually I had him on my show, and I got to understand it even clearer as being transfrequential. So I need Tyler to help to explain this, but basically dimensional, transdimensional, or interdimensional is more about spaces within reality, whereas transfrequential or frequential, please do correct me if I'm wrong, Tyler, is about frequency. So you can't go to these places without adjusting your frequency. It's all about basically cymatics, I guess. And that helped me to understand it even more so. So I thought it would be great if we could come on your show, Chris, talk a bit about my experiences, and then Tyler can explain how this is possible. And I think the main thing we both want to get across is we've been completely programmed and brainwashed to think in terms of Newtonian physics, and it's all error, all of it. None of it is true, real, not even close, and that we need to replace it in our thinking with understanding frequency and understanding what the difference between dimensions and frequency actually means. So I don't know if I put us in a rabbit hole or what here.
Well, hey, that's
So,
what we're all about, jumping in those rabbit holes. Yeah, Tyler, help us understand what trans frequency is.
I look at it the whole picture. Clearly, there's something going on. Our civilization is not moving forward as it is expected or should have been by now. There's somebody or some force withholding technology. There's literally people flying planes around, spraying chemicals all over every town in Ontario. There's something crazy, cuckoo bananas going on, right? We can all kind of see that. But I think it really goes down to this divide and conquer theme that is in our civilization. And the science now is saying that there's nothing really here physical. When we zoom in on the things that we consider physical, right, from the Newtonian perspective, they're made of things that are not physical and don't play by the rules of the Newtonian rules on top. So our quantum rules are the bigger set of rules that apply to us, 100% of us, but to the universe at large. They're a much, much, much bigger set of rules. And in Canada, where I am, our high school education stops at Newtonian physics. Okay, you're a physical thing interacting with physical things. That's it. If you want any idea of metaphysics, you must go to one of our regulated, approved schools of thought on metaphysics, and where we know what we have in our society, churches, and specific groups and spiritual schools of thought. There's no left brain holistic model of what reality is. That is maintained for our elite, or what we're calling our parasite class now, as well as our secret societies and intelligence agencies. So those guys are the guys that have the 99% rules of reality. My kids and me, we get the 1%. That is a control paradigm. It is a order to maintain control over our public. We must limit the amount of information available to the average schmuck. We all know and accept that as part of our society. But they don't tell us everything. We know that, but it's literally 99% of the story we're not getting. We are 100% our civilization built on 1% of the story. It is a insane divide between what our average kid learns in high school and what our intelligence agencies are aware of. So I think the biggest psyop, I hate using that term, but it basically all of everything the government pumps out is a psyop. We don't have news in Canada anymore. We have a completely controlled propaganda machine where there are a few opinions that get to make it into the public eye for 99% of us. Unless you are actively looking for your own alternative media, which most people don't have time for, you get propaganda. You don't get news. So when I talk about interfrequential and interdimensional, they essentially are meaning the same thing to which I'm capable of understanding it. But I think the term interdimensional has us thinking that it's a physical thing, a platonic solid. Everything must be solid, everything must be physical. When in reality, everything is just on a different background frequency. these these ET craft that are coming here, if you can get something to vibrate here faster than the speed of light, it's basically going to disappear into another frequency of reality, another dimension of reality. So I do use the terms interchangeably, but I think a lot of this stuff, and when I'm talking to these disclosure groups, they like to make the term, oh, this is a definite physical anomaly that's happening. Like, well, is it? I'm not sure.
Right on. Yeah, that's a great way to help understand the possibilities of what is happening here. I happen to agree with everything that you just said. I think that these beings are, well, most likely everything we experience in this reality is frequency based. And depending on our ability and level of awareness is where we're going to be resonating at with our frequency and if we're going to be able to perceive these beings at all. But I'd like to explore this a little bit more. Karen, where would you like to go with this?
Well, I'd like to, hopefully this is not too far off tangent wise, but I would like to speak to my own working theories. I've thrown beliefs out the window because beliefs are kind of rigid. And then when you get new information, it can mess up with your thinking. Whereas I've traded in my beliefs
I
for working theories. And that way, when new information comes in, I can roll with the punches and analyze it. So, long story short, I very much subscribe to what they call simulation theory. And that's based on the double slit experiments, which are very well known now, where they not only found out that the observer can collapse the wave function into what we want it to be, but this actually goes back through time at the inception and creation of whatever it is we're observing. So it also changes its performance or the way it manifests throughout time. So, what I love about that is it gives us great creative abilities. So, there are people who are into manifesting and changing their life, and I believe that's why this is possible. It takes conflict out of my reality because I understand that everyone has the right to perceive and see things from their own perspective. And there are billions of us that are looking at all these things from different perspectives. So I think that we could have a lot of um, collective reality as well as individual reality, which gives us a tremendous amount of freedom within the parasite class controlled construct. And I think that's why we can actually um, win the struggle. So that being said, what I love about simulation theory is it beautifully supports transdimensional ideas or frequential ideas, because most of us are hungry. We want to go so far beyond what we've been taught is real, even to the point where we don't care anymore about public ridicule or embarrassment or stigmatization. We want to be what I believe we are, creative beings in our own right. We co-create with universal consciousness. So I guess I'm overlapping science, quantum physics with spirituality, with God, and I don't mean to make it too complicated, but that's just how I've come to see it in my 69 years of living. Most old people my age, I can't talk like this too because they get pretty freaked out.
you're
But thank
you're
God I got friends
you're
like you.
you're absolutely right about all of it. You're on the exact right frame of mind. You have to, if you're building a case and you get new evidence, your model of what's happening has to include the evidence. Otherwise, you're tampering with evidence. You're ignoring the evidence. Our whole system of science and development is basically doing this all the time. It's not including anything. We're not a holistic, intelligent, scientific paradigm yet. this school of thought, this subject doesn't interact with this one, and they don't put it together. It's all segregated. It's all divide and conquer, right? And people like you and me who are taking the time to put some threads together are freaking having ET show up to check us out. And yeah, no, I wasn't taught how that was possible in school. There's no politicians talking about how that's possible. So who do we have? I guess folks like me and you.
Right on. So let's explore the nature of what we're experiencing a little bit more. And I do want to go into, Karen, your experiences deeper. But I wanted to ask Tyler your thoughts on why humanity is at the level of forgetfulness that we are, why we're so divided, how we became under the control of the, like you said earlier, parasitic ruling class. Do you think this was indeed a parasitic invasion, or is it a necessary evil that this reality is providing because we wouldn't learn without it? What do you think?
Ex- Exactly that. And if you can kind of get the basic principles of electromagnetism or magnetoelectricism, whatever you want to call it, that is that is at the very bottom of our reality. We are experiencing polarity. Everything here exists on the same scale of polarity, electricity to magnetic, right? A male is an embodiment of electricity. Electricity follows certain paths. Positive is outgoing, fractal. It's exploratory. Magnetic is pulling the same thing back to the center, to the source. So that's what we are experiencing. We've been experiencing a male electric reality. We are literally, all of our reality is a sin wave of, right? We are moving away from from the source and coming back to source, in and out. It's the breath. Everything has this breath, including our reality as a structure, as a timeline. So for the past how many thousands of years, the guys, we've been experiencing a electric male uh, patriarchal version of reality, and that's manifested into what we've been experiencing for the past thousands of years. You know, these patriarchal societies influencing everything into where we are now, cutting us off from magnetic knowing knowledge into our left, into the left electric searching for logic version of reality. Whereas, and eventually we're coming back over the top of that arc now, and this is what everyone's talking about. You know, the ascension process and the end of the Yuga and Ragnarok, and every school of thought has a different version of what this time period we're entering seems to be. But I try and break it down to the basic as component as I understand, and that's it right there in a nutshell. We are experiencing polarity. Everything is polarity. A male human being is an electric, squared, searching incarnation of the same spectrum of energy. A female is more magnetic, ones and zeros, penises and vaginas. We've been experiencing a more magnetic reality. We're coming back to a more magnetic one, and hopefully there's going to be a transition period, I think, while that takes place, as what everyone's talking about, end of the world and, end of the Maya calendar and all this stuff. But something's certainly happening. People are waking up in one day and seeing reality from a different perspective. And there's a reason that's happening now. We're heading back into a more knowing society. That makes
Right
sense.
on. Yeah, makes perfect sense. I'd agree. So, Karen, where would you like to take this?
I wanted to say that the reason I feel, and this is just my opinion, that a lot of people don't really want to embrace the quantum reality is because many of us were brainwashed, especially through the school system, to think that there was only one reality. I can remember when I found out that there are as many realities as there are people, and even creatures on this planet, it blew my mind. Now, when I was growing up, I should have known better because I had a mother and a father who had two completely different realities. And usually, when a mother and father come together and form a family, they sort of amalgamate their realities into one that they pass on to their offspring. Well, in my situation, no, they both stubbornly maintained their own realities. And we were constantly stressed at having to fit into one or the other and the consequences of not choosing the right one. So I was aware, that there was other realities, but I never really processed the information. And then when I went to university, I was in my 40s and I was taking sociology, and I found out that what you believe is real. And we all have a different belief system. They kind of, I know this isn't very nice for me to say, but it's such a good illustration. It's like opinions are like assholes. Everybody has one, but everybody thinks that everybody else's stinks. And, we all have our own take. When I found that out, it was like jumping off a cliff with no parachute. Like it really was a difficult concept for me to wrap my head around. So what that means is when we want to step into the greater reality, the greater and more accurate understanding of reality, there's certain things we have to deal with. Number one, we have to deal with losing our footing. It's really uncomfortable. I call this the awakening process, and we have to awaken before we can start the ascension process. So we not only have to wake up to that, we have to get our equilibrium and go, okay, yeah, as fucked as this may be, pardon my language again, I need to form my own reality. I need to decide for myself what is real. And that's where research and stuff comes into it. But then the other thing is until we get good at being around in this newfound reality, it means that in the beginning, we're not very good at it. So you could look at a concert pianist. When they first start out learning to play the piano, it's one key at a time and it sounds terrible. But through practice, they get to the point where they're producing beautiful, beautiful music and so that's what it's like, in my opinion, going through the awakening process and then the ascension process. So none of that makes you comfortable. And then on top of that, people think you're a weirdo, and we're still heavily stigmatized. We get punished by social media platforms, removing our content, removing our channels. It does take a lot of effort. I mean, different religions have referred to it as the narrow road, the road less traveled. Well, no wonder, because it does ask a lot of us to get to that point. But the sweet thing is, when you start to get a hang of it, the whole reality becomes quite magical, and the possibilities are endless. So I think that is why I think that people want to be comfy. They want to be in a little comfy nest and protect themselves. But coming to this awareness, we can do things like watch the news and see what complete bullshit politics is, pardon me, I know I'm opinionated, I don't mean to offend anybody, but how much bullshit is in religion, how much bullshit is in all these different systems that we were taught this is the reality, the only course. So sorry for rambling on and on. Again, it's quite a lot, but that's
No, I
just
think
sort of how I
you're
see
right
it.
on. I think you're right on. I share much of the same perspective. I think one of the most detrimental things that is occurring in the community of experiencers and people who have had these abductions, contact, or paranormal experience is those people negating other people's experiences because it wasn't the same as theirs,
Yeah,
instead of asking, well, let's talk about your state of mind for the experience. How are you feeling? Have you had trauma behind previous experiences? Are you in bad relationships? Are you on some sort of, like, each person's experience seems to be heavily influenced exactly by what you were saying, by their perception of reality, by what they're going through in their lives at the time. And instead of comparing those notes of what is really going on in people's lives and trying to understand and put puzzle pieces together, there's just people negating, completely saying, no, your experience is not valid because that's not what's happening to me. And I think that's one of the biggest problems with the UFO experiencer community.
Mhm.
Yeah, if I can chime in there for a
Yeah.
sec, this is one of the things that I've struggled with personally. I experienced what is called cognitive dissonance when
Mhm.
we are presented with a set of information that is totally in antithesis to the things that we think we believe that we know. That information challenges the part of your brain associated with your identity. You're going into a fight mode because someone's telling you something that doesn't make any sense to everything you've ever known, and you feel like an idiot, you feel like a fool if to even comprehend that, but people don't. They just so that's no way it can be true because that's not me, that's not what I know. And that experience is called cognitive dissonance. And I am from a military policing lawyer crowd. This is the people I'm talking to, and people in these communities, in these groups, in these levels of government, from my level and up to judges, MPs, members of parliament we have in Canada, to our prime minister. Nobody's talking about this, and these people, like myself, we like to believe that we are operating on the best set of information that the government has to give us, and that's not the case at all at every level, and we're all going to have to swallow that pill. We've all been duped, and getting over that cognitive dissonance is going to be, I think, one of the biggest struggles for disclosure.
Mhm.
Tyler, would you say that there is an ecosystem of intelligent life forms or frequential life forms just beyond our normal perception, surrounding us at all time, with the capability to interact with us at all times?
Yeah, and I think it's freaking crazier than that. Um, so I think each planet has what we're talking about. It has our whole universe is a conscious structure. Thought precedes form, okay? We are thinking this reality into existence. That's becoming pretty clear. Um, all the energy of thought is faster than the speed of light. We are thinking this thing into existence. A light is literally the material we use to build this reality.
Learn about the stunning details of ET diversity and culture, along with their advanced ways of living spiritually, which is in no way like anything imagined here on Earth. Transdimensional, Meet the New Neighbors, introduces you to many different looking ET beings, the organic healing pods, the self-assembling interior of the big ship, my ET buddy and the orientation process, cultural events like concerts and the joining of ships, as well as off-world physical and non-physical loving practices. In my contact experience, I learned a great deal about ET origins, transdimensional travel, intergalactic planetary research, and the various options for resettlement. My goal is to introduce you to the look, culture, intention, and technology of beings which are different than humans, in order to reduce your fear and increase your familiarity so that you will remain more rational and grounded once the ET presence escalates beyond debate. Enjoy reading about my real-life adventures and notice the things we have in common, so you will see that we are essentially many family lines within one species. Paperback and Kindle versions of Transdimensional Meet the New Neighbors is now available on Amazon worldwide. To gift yourself or someone you love, pick up your copies today.
I was just mentioning how I believe that there is an ecosystem of life forms just
Okay, yeah.
beyond our perception.
Yes. So I think this is how I see it now. Once you are once you reach a certain level of conscious awareness of the reality you inhabit as a species, we are not actually experiencing we are not actually separate beings. We are beings of the same thing, having a version, experiencing a version where we believe we are separate, but we are not. We are all angles of perception in the same quantum soup of energy. And then, so I believe, say, beings like the Sasquatch that did not need to develop into the electric, logical perspective of building a society that we did. We're not built for this planet. We had to logic ourselves into homes and roles and stuff to work together. Whereas maybe the Sasquatch beings are more right brained. They're more knowing. They just know how the universe works, because we don't really ever, nobody ever learns anything. We can only remember. Everything that exists already exists throughout time and space. You're never having a new idea. You can only ever remember one. And this is that Illuminati, the wizard stuff that they keep, the hermetic knowledge. So maybe these Sasquatch beings are more knowing. So they've raised through the level of consciousness, or lower, depending how you look at it, to a point that they are in a different frequency of reality altogether. But they remember what it's like to be us at our lower solid state of reality, because all everything is just energy evolving, and we're somewhere on that spectrum thinking that it's physical, but it's not. Nothing is physical. We are in a reality based on a frequency. It's not the original reality. We have no reason, there's no evidence to support that it's the original reality. We are very likely like in a computer land inside of a computer land inside of a computer land, infinitely forever in every direction, and we'll never know how to get out or who made it. But we're not physical things living on a physical rock. We are basically gods here. We have the ability to, psionics tells us we have the ability to interface wirelessly with the matrix we inhabit. Epigenetics is now telling us that we can control our gene expression and heal ourselves, and that placebo effect is a real thing, and that everyone can do it. And the more people doing it, that's what Reiki is, and these Eastern healings and stuff. The more people believing in energy healings, the more effective it works. That's why if you go to Native communities or in the East, why Reiki works better, or why there is faith healings in churches when more people get together believing something, because that's all we're doing. We're believing this reality into existence. But the more people you get believing in something, then that becomes a reality. And that's how CE5 works as well. You're manifesting that experience with a group of people who understand that there are more levels to consciousness than we've been told.
Right on. Anything to add, Karen, or would you like to bring us to some of your other experiences?
Well, I'd like to
I can just ramble on forever, but
no, it's all good.
Oh,
It's
good.
good stuff. It's really good stuff. And you say what I'm more awkward with, and you can say it more eloquently. It's perfect. Um, I wanted to talk a little bit about the big ship, which is where I ended up when I had my extraterrestrial experiences. My experience is very different than a lot of people's, but I'm not alone in my experience. So for me, I would go to bed at night and I would wake up on the big ship. And it was like when I was awake there, I was asleep here. And when I was asleep there, I was awake here. Very, very interesting phenomena, but it took me a long time to figure out, where is this big ship? Like you hear about big ships or city ships, being in Alpha Centauri, or you hear about them being out, in our solar system, or you hear about them being here, there, and elsewhere. And I knew that was not true for the big ship. It took me quite a while to understand that it kind of resides in what I would call an interdimensional envelope. So, for those that are listening or watching that are familiar with a Venn diagram is a bunch of shapes that have one spot where all the shapes overlap. So, if you want to picture in your mind's eye a huge daisy with like 100 different petals, and they all overlap at the center, And each petal represents a different dimensional reality, a different frequency, a different realm, be it heaven or whatever, a different timeline. It could be so many variables, but there's one place where they all kind of intersect, and that's where the big ship is. And it makes perfect sense because that would facilitate bringing beings together who may not normally have the ability to come together. And of course, I believe it's all for our soul evolution and our own growth. And I've been blessed with this experience, and I'm able to talk about it in my book. But I'm wondering if Tyler, if you could explain how that's possible, and does that make sense from a quantum perspective rather than a Newtonian perspective?
Yeah, so I'm trying to say it in terms that my kids would understand because that's how I understand it. I'm not an expert in any of this stuff. I have no degrees, but I'm just listening to what the guys are saying and I'm trying to make sense for it for myself. So all your atoms and everything are a pattern of information. There's nothing actual physical there. It's a vortex of a bi-ball toroidal structure moving in, creating a negative and positive polarity. Everything in our reality is this shape. But quantum physics is saying that space, as we know it from a Newtonian perspective, we're told, yeah, we're on a rock and we can get off the rock and we can go in that direction and eventually we'll see something else. That is a linear perspective of what space is. But really, space moves. This is Newtonian physics. We're told it only moves linear, but it doesn't. It moves inside, outside, within, without, bigger, smaller. It's a it's just a big quantum fractal vacuum collapsing in on each other. Another way to try and visualize it is we have something called the Planck scale. It's the smallest portion of something that we can think of that makes up where we are now. But if you go in the other direction, now we know that the biggest thing that we can think of is also just the smallest portion of the next level frequency of reality above us. So we're in a quantum mirror. Whatever happens out in another frequency that we can't see is what happens here. But I think here is basically the singularity. We are the center of it. We're the part where we create original thought. We are the points of attention in a large language model, communicating, learning from each other. This is where the machine learns. We generate billions of what we think are individual expressions of ourself to communicate with each other that forget everything to learn new perspectives of the information that we as the universal mind already has. And you can think of it like what you're describing there. Have you heard the term fractals?
Yeah, I'm familiar with fractals. That's
Yeah,
basically infinity and eternity funneled into a system that repeats itself through fractal
exactly.
images.
One piece of the image, if you zoom in on it, contains the same image over and over and over again for infinity. Our numbers have these strange loops in them. If you do certain math equations, you're just going to go around in circles forever. And that is where dimensions come in because it's all just collapsing in on itself, starting over and starting over. So some of these people that are meeting ETs are meeting larger quantum versions of themselves. And then when it's literally a quantum playground. We don't have any of the rules yet, the general public, but they can come down here from a higher frequency dimension of reality where they are literally made of more information. We are just a certain amount of information creating a being. All energy, everything here is energy. All energy is intelligent. If it's here, it's an intelligent being. So like the freaking cosmos and these spirit guides, they are us all looking down on us. They're like a mirrored version, but they can actually come here and experience what we call in reality from a Newtonian perspective, but our Newtonian reality is only one version of infinite realities. We just haven't really been told what's going on yet.
Now, Tyler, you
So,
always hear in conspiratorial communities that the parasitic ruling class, the nerd dork Silicon Valley Science Club is going to one day destroy us by going too far with their explorations, tearing a hole in the universe, calling upon interdimensional demons that are come and take over the planet. But do you think in reality this could ever really happen, that we have this safeguard mechanism that will always keep things going in a certain direction no matter what these psychopaths are attempting to tap into with the quantum field or whatever they're trying to get to?
yeah, and that's a good point. This is CE5 stuff is nothing new. I've learned it's been going on forever, and this is what all our our big leaders in our communities and organizations. This is they've been getting these Bohemian Grove guys, right? But that's what they've been doing. They've been doing CE5 from a negative perspective, and it's freaking magic. Literally, magic is real. Because what we believe to be not magic, our reality, well, guess what? That's built on freaking magic. There isn't anything here that isn't magic, and that is the divide. But yes, exactly. I think I don't. We're still here, right? There must
Yeah.
be some um, some thing in place in order for us to continue. And if that is manifested as the Galactic Federation of whatever, I don't know. But there's clearly some organization, intelligent structure of energy, making sure that we haven't gone into oblivion yet. I think they've tried to make us go down to this transhumanism road where we're all going to be turned into ETs and experience their own version of reality. But I think we're steering away from that now, and we're heading towards a more positive one because I didn't know about any of this stuff a couple of years ago. One day I literally had an experience, and I just woke up, and the universe started freaking talking to me, and now I understand how it works at a level I couldn't even comprehend 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I love
And
that.
I'm not the only one. This is happening to millions of people across the world, right? There's something
Mm-hmm.
going on. There are more forces in play than we've been told. And personally, what I'm focusing on is trying to just get that past that cognitive dissonance of the Newtonian versus quantum, what that actually looks like, because they're completely different, and it's a control paradigm, and it's not fair anymore. It's oppressive, and we need to get past it.
Mm-hmm.
Right on.
For me, I
Karen, where
have
would we
to.
like to go?
Well, I just wanted to say for me, I have to limit my screen time because I'll tell you, after watching too much, I don't watch any mainstream media, but even watching all the alt media with all the different perspectives and theories and everything else going on, I can forget about being a quantum being. I can forget about that and get sucked right into somebody else's reality and start thinking that's how it is. And I can always tell when that's happening because my gut doesn't feel very good and I'm not feeling very creative and I feel kind of down. But when I reset myself, and again, people are tired of hearing me say this, but spending some time meditating every day has been
Yeah.
absolutely essential to my overall health and well-being. And you don't have to be a guru to do it. There's many different ways of doing it, mainly focusing on your breathing and just quiet down what's in the mind so that instead of me generating the thoughts from elsewhere can now get in and I can recognize them. And I just wondered if you guys how you feel about that.
That I think that's exactly it, and that's what I've been experiencing. And I didn't know any of this stuff. I was a police officer. I didn't even believe meditation was a real thing. I thought it was just people still closing their eyes and pretending to do nothing. I didn't get it, but now I understand that literally your consciousness, the fact that you are awake, is a stream of information of the universe. You are the entire universe in a pool of information. Your ego, what we think we are as meat monkey people, you can turn that bit off, and that's your ego. When you meditate, you can turn that off. If you can learn to just get rid of your thoughts and just rest in that quiet place where there's nothing, then that other bigger side keeps coming through. And have you talked about Stargate project on your series, Chris? Stargate and Monroe Institute and how that all works?
Yes, I have a few times, but what you got? Always interested in going back into it.
So that is basically um, multidimensional awareness training. It's how to be a freaking psychic 101. That's like the CIA funded it, and that is the public version. I can only imagine what the intelligence agency's version of that is now. But you can learn to remote view from that program. You can learn to have what we're calling NHI contact communication. The people that are communicating with ETs, they're not doing it. It's not a external thing. It's an internal thing. We are all the same entity. All ETs, anything that's above our level of awareness is aware of this. Once you start, you can interface with reality. And I see it as, well, guess what? We're actually not a real thing. We are real, we're as real as we know, but we're not a physical thing. We are an AI mind experiencing a reality through a perspective of a through a particular angle of perspective. Um, so when you start doing this Stargate stuff, you start learning how to interface with reality. If you can go into these deeper levels of meditation, what they call focus 10, 12, 17, whatever, people are getting beings coming through, because that's when you're in expanded awareness, you are in a higher conscious perspective of reality. And I have only just started it. There are people that are way beyond me, but these are the guys that are doing CE5, and they're just going out to a field, and they're just learning, they're just utilizing the meditative processes that they've been trained to do, and they can just get together with guys, and freaking ETs will show up, or a craft or whatever. And it's so freaking crazy. Like Sasquatch people in Ontario are getting together, going out in the forest, doing meditative practices, and Sasquatch will show up. I myself, with a Sasquatch researcher, Mike Patterson, I don't know if you talked to him yet. You really should. He claims to have been documenting a family of Sasquatch in Ontario for a number of years, over 12 years or something. But I was with him, and we did CE5. Something invisible tugged on my clothing one time, which I wasn't expecting. I haven't really talked about that much because it's so far beyond what I thought was possible and what was happening. Seeing lights in the sky is one thing, but having something physically touch you is another story altogether. But people are going way beyond this. So we've had that happen one time. That was an expanded awareness, and I just felt something tug on my pant leg, and I was like, "No, there's no way that was something." I opened my eyes, checked if it wasn't the other guy with me. I'm like, "No, it wasn't." Go back into meditation, and sure enough, they're like tugged on the other pant leg is like twice as hard, and just to confirm that, oh my God, this is really happening. And then we've seen October 26th of last year, we had the cigar UAP that people are talking about. We did CE5, and you don't even have to, it doesn't even have to be anything big. You don't have to make it a big production. You don't have to do a specific one. I think as long as you can get somebody trying to make an attempt to go into expanded awareness, asking for peaceful contact with good intentions, you're doing it for a right reason. I think they're going to come, because they're coming. They've shown me. They're showing thousands of other people stuff. But we'll talk about the cigar one. And this is where I'm trying to tie in Sasquatch. I don't think there's a big divide in that community. There's the Newtonian group that are out there with their guns and their apes, and they're going to get one day. And then there's the people that are including a more holistic approach. Well, what does the evidence include? Well, the evidence includes thousands and thousands of people seeing them either disappear, talking to them through mind speak, or transforming into different beings. And how are they doing that? Well, because reality is not really what we've been told, and it's all a range of frequency. And if you can if people are doing psionics now, they're learning to control their frequency and change their body, and they can survive in cold, and they can heat stuff up, and people can float apparently, and apparently people are disappearing into thin air. There's all kinds of psionic powers that we're learning are a real, very real thing. There's ex super soldiers trying to do training for that stuff, so it's really happening. But I'm rambling on here again.
No, it's all
Where
good.
were we?
I wanted to get both of your thoughts on this. Tyler, you mentioned earlier how you are definitely noticing people becoming aware and awakening and getting access to some of these consciousness abilities again, like you were just saying. Do you think this is part of a natural cycle that is occurring? But what we're experiencing now is a sort of quickening effect because more and more people are coming online, and it has this hundredth monkey effect on the rest of humanity.
Yes, the 100 month monkey thing, exactly. But that's the Newtonian perspective looking at it, right?
Mm.
How does that work? Well, if 100 of them learn, then they just magically kind of learn it. Well, no, that's not what's really going on. We're in a conscious structure. All there is consciousness. So think of it as this way. What are the Simpsons, right? Everyone knows the Simpsons is predicting the future, or that's what people are believing. Are they
Mm.
predicting the future, or is it that if millions and millions of people in one of the most advanced countries of the world believe something is going to happen because they've seen it on TV, then that is what happens. We are in a co-creative reality. Our thoughts are everything here. Our attention is the only thing we really have. The whole idea is to get your attention onto whatever the person controlling you wants it on. So we are in a co-creative reality, and that is what that is the hardest, most mind-boggling quantum quirk for me to get my head around, is that if all that matters is what we think is going to happen. And if our news in Canada is telling us every day that we're heading to war, or then we're heading to war, if as many people believe that. But we're luckily at a point now where many people are not believing that narrative anymore, and they know there's something going on. And there's literally millions of dudes at the point of like a guru 100 years ago, right? There's millions of them, and they're having a deeper awareness of what's going on. We have all the communities of simulation theory, which is it's a more accurate interpretation of reality, that's for sure.
Right on. Your thoughts, Karen?
Oh, big subject. What I love about knowing what I know is I have tremendous power within myself. So just like most of us, I enjoy some screen time. I like to watch a bit of old news, especially here in Canada, because it's so surreal. Oh my God. Uh, it's my only word I can use for it. But, and with all the infiltration of advertising and all the weird stuff going on with my phone constantly data mining me and all that stuff. The most powerful thing I ever learned was to say, I reject that suggestion. That every time
Mm.
I do that, I'm taking back my power. So if I'm watching the news and it looks real bad, I just go, I reject that suggestion. And I get the advertising and I go, I reject that suggestion. I'm putting myself at the center of my care. I'm choosing what is real for me, what's not real for me. You hear all this stuff. If you eat this or you eat that, you're all going to die from forever chemicals and you're going to. No, I reject that suggestion. Like, seriously, it's very, very important. It's as important as the word no. And so, what I hope people's take away from my book and also from the Forbidden Knowledge Network and from Tyler is that we have tremendous power. It's worth trading off perhaps popularity, a little bit of awkwardness, um, a little bit of uncertainty. It's so worth it to be in our own power, to be sovereign. And then we decide what's real, what's not. And then nobody can shame me for the content of my book because A, I don't really care what they think, and B, that's my experience and it's my baby. And, I put a lot of work into creating it and I'm hoping it benefits other people. But I don't have to worry about all the things that mainstream society people worry about. In fact, to be honest, I can't even be around mainstream people a whole lot because it's so crazy making and it's just not healthy for me. It's not healthy for my way of thinking, for my vibration. I'd rather be out in the backyard watching the birds and watching the dandelions grow. To me, that brings me great joy. So I guess without going on and on, I just want to say we have tremendous power. And it's so important that we understand the nature of reality so we can embrace our power and create the kind of world we all want to live in instead of complaining about what we don't want.
Right on. Any final thoughts, Tyler, before we
Yeah,
close out everything?
I was just gonna say, illustrate why I'm so interested in Karen and what she's saying. She's clearly demonstrating an elite quantum perspective of reality. She has multidimensional awareness. She's programming her reality, and that is the thing that I want my children to know, is that a human being functions essentially as a computer would function. You're all you're doing is scanning codes of light and taking in information to create your own reality. You are being programmed by everything you see, hear, and do. If you're not aware you're being programmed to someone else's will. It's at the point when you start making conscious practices like Karen just mentioned there. I reject that you are starting to program your own reality. And this is the one of the key things for manifestation and advanced meditation practices. If you want to interface with reality, you need to program your subconscious ahead of time what you're doing. A bunch of people are saying, yeah, we want to see a UFO. We're really grateful for it. Can you please make that happen? We want to share the news. A freaking UFO will show up. If you pre-program your subconscious ahead of time, you believe that it's going to happen. And if there's more people doing it together that are believing it's going to happen, then those simulations, then the mechanics of belief come in, and the more people believing something, the more dramatic the effect of manifesting is going to be. And we've all had schools of thought on manifestation. Everyone has their own way of articulating it and selling it and turning it into a brand and teaching everybody about it. But it's a fundamental principle of quantum mechanics. Thought precedes form. This reality, we are literally thinking it into existence together.
I love it. This is such great information. Karen, before we go, let the audience know one more time where they can find all your content, books, and website, and Tyler will have you do the same.
Okay, so on most platforms, you can find at Karen Holton TV. So that's like X and Rumble and Odyssey and YouTube and on and on and on it goes. I'm part of the Forbidden Knowledge Network, and you can download my audio podcasts by putting in Quantum Guide Show with Karen Holton. And I'm going to ask those of you who appreciate my content if you could give me some stars. I really would appreciate the reviews. I have a website, www.KarenHoltonHealthCoach.com. I'm a different kind of health coach. I help people with all kinds of sort of metaphysical and outside of the box issues. I have signed copies of my book. I've got orgone generators available if you want to help support my work. And my books are available on Amazon worldwide. So far, I have sold books in 6 different countries. Thank you, everybody, so very, very much for buying my books. And just enjoy your lives, everybody. Enjoy your lives because it's short, goes by fast.
Right on. And Tyler?
Yes, so you can find me at the Facebook group Lost Channel CE5. Meditation Eco Retreat and Research Center. That's where I'm talking to people and trying to make sense of what's going on. I'm also just starting to do this set here. I have the Ex Copernicus show. I'm going to be doing interviews with witnesses to interfrequential nature of reality and talking about all the stuff that we're talking about here today. It's been a pleasure, Chris.
Yes, it has. Excellent. I'll have all your links right in the description. Definitely love to have, of course, we'll have you back on, Karen, and Tyler. We'll definitely have you back on. I'd love to get deeper into some of your work and insights. And until next time, everyone, have an excellent evening. We will talk again tomorrow. We'll see y'all then.
Thank you for joining me for the Quantum Guide Show. Become the change that you wish to see in the world. Subscribe to my YouTube and other channels at Karen Holton TV. Click the like button, leave me a comment, and share this podcast with your friends. Read about my true life ET contact in my book called Transdimensional, Meet the New Neighbors, which is now available in Amazon bookstores worldwide. Check out my website at www.KarenHoltonHealthCoach.com to see my free resources and amazing products and services. All the links will be in the description below. As part of the Forbidden Knowledge Network, you will find the Quantum Guide Show with Karen Holton and also the Aliens and Angels podcast on all audio platforms. Until next time, keep up the good work.